1491 BC. The Egyptian army was the most powerful military machine in the ancient world. Thousands of chariots, tens of thousands of soldiers, archers, spearmen. They were chasing a handful of fugitives through the desert, a tribe of slaves who had escaped from Pharaoh. And yet, the Egyptians perished, every last one of them. Or at least, that's how the story goes. Later, that same tribe conquered fortified cities simply by marching around their walls. Enemy armies fled in panic without a single blow being struck. Priests died merely for touching a sacred object the wrong way. 2 soldiers were swallowed by the earth. Entire nations were destroyed.
The one thing connecting all of these stories was a box, a wooden chest covered in gold, roughly the size of a small table. They called it the Ark of the Covenant, and inside it, the Bible tells us, dwelled God himself.
The Ark vanished more than 2,500 years ago, but the trail has never gone cold. It has been hunted by pharaohs, crusaders, Nazi officers, British adventurers, and CIA operatives. Its location, if it even exists, is simultaneously a religious secret, a political bomb, and perhaps the greatest archaeological mystery of all time. Today, we tell the story of the Ark of the Covenant, what it was, what it did, how it disappeared, and why even mentioning it can ignite a war in the Middle East. Let's start with the facts, or at least with what has been written down. The description of the Ark appears in the book of Exodus, chapter 25. There, God gives Moses precise construction instructions. Nothing is left to chance. Even the dimensions are given in exact measurements. The Ark was to be made from acacia wood, a hard, slightly fragrant species that grows in the Sinai desert. The wood was to be overlaid inside and out with pure gold. Its dimensions? Roughly 130 centimeters long, 80 centimeters wide, and 80 centimeters tall. At the corners, 4 golden rings, so that it could be carried on wooden poles, since no one was allowed to touch it directly.
On the lid, called the mercy seat or the cherubim cover, stood 2 golden figures of cherubim, their wings spread toward one another.
Inside the ark were placed 3 objects: the stone tablets bearing the 10 Commandments, the staff of Aaron, which was said to have budded and blossomed overnight, and a jar of manna, the food that had fallen from the sky in the desert. But the ark was not simply a container for holy relics. It was something far more terrifying.
It was described as the throne, the dwelling place, and the footstool of Yahweh, the God of the Israelites, literally, not metaphorically. Wherever the ark stood, God was there, and from it radiated a power that nothing could withstand. If you're wondering whether this sounds like religious poetry or a literal description of something real, you're not alone.
Let's address the key question honestly. Do we have any evidence that the ark existed outside of the biblical text? The short answer is, directly, no. Not a single Egyptian, Assyrian, or Babylonian record mentions the ark by name. No foreign conqueror who described the plunder of Jerusalem ever refers to it specifically. But here is where things get interesting. The Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose III captured an extraordinary quantity of gold and sacred objects during his conquest of Canaan around 1450 BC. In the list of spoils recorded at the Temple of Karnak, certain items are mentioned that closely resemble what is described in Exodus, including a chest carried on poles by priests. Coincidence? Perhaps. But the parallels don't end there. In Egypt, archaeologists discovered what is known as the Ark of Tutankhamun, a funerary chest remarkably similar in form. Wooden, gold-plated, fitted with carrying poles and decorated figures on the lid. The Egyptians had a long tradition of sacred arks, known as kapet, carried in religious processions and used as symbols of divine presence. The Israelites lived in Egypt for roughly 400 years. The idea that they adopted a familiar format and adapted it for their own religion is entirely plausible. There is also a compelling parallel at the Abu Simbel temple, built by Ramses II, where wall carvings depict sacred arks being carried into battle by priests with winged lids and decorative panels said to guarantee victory. Whether the biblical description reflects historical reality, religious symbolism, or a blend of both, we'll return to that. But could such an object have existed? The archaeological answer is yes, absolutely. Now let's return to the Ark in action. Because if you believe the biblical texts, it was extraordinary. One of the most disturbing episodes appears in 2 Samuel. The Israelites were transporting the Ark to Jerusalem on an ox cart. At one point, the oxen stumbled. A man named Uzzah reached out his hand to steady the Ark to prevent it from falling. He touched it, and at that very moment, he fell dead, just for touching it. The king was so terrified that he refused to bring the Ark any closer and left it in a stranger's house for 3 months. In the book of Leviticus, we read about the 2 sons of Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, who offered strange fire before the sanctuary and were consumed alive by the Ark. And in Numbers, the famous episode where the earth beneath the feet of the rebels Korah, Dathan, and Abiram simply opens up and swallows them whole. But the Ark didn't only kill those on the wrong side of God. When the Philistines captured the Ark and placed it in the temple of their god Dagon, the next morning the statue of Dagon had fallen face down before it. The following night, fallen again, but this time with its hands and head broken off. The people of the city were struck with disease. The Ark was passed from city to city, bringing plague and death wherever it went, until they finally decided to simply send it back to the Israelites. The Ark in battle. The walls of Jericho. You know the story. Priestly trumpets and a procession around the city walls, but few people realized that at the very heart of that procession was the Ark. It served as the lead battle standard, or something far more than that. When the Israelites first went to war without the Ark against Ai, they were defeated. When the Ark was with them, they won. The Ark also led the entire column through the desert, guiding the way. And whenever it set out, Moses would speak words that later became a kind of battle hymn.
Rise up, Lord! May your enemies be scattered!
The physical phenomena. In Exodus, it is described that a cloud appeared above the Ark, the glory cloud. When the cloud descended, the Israelites made camp. When it lifted, they moved on. And in the Holy of Holies, the chamber where the Ark was kept in Solomon's temple, only the high priest was permitted to enter, and only once a year on Yom Kippur. When he entered, he had a rope tied to his ankle, just in case, so that others could drag him out if he died inside. All of this raises one difficult question. Was there something physically real causing these deaths? Some researchers have proposed theories involving accumulated static electricity, radioactive materials, or even exotic physical phenomena. None have been proven. For now, the Ark remains a mystery, in both senses of the word. 586 BC. Nebuchadnezzar II, king of Babylon, captures Jerusalem after a long siege. Solomon's temple, the pride of Israel, built on the Temple Mount roughly 370 years earlier, is burned to the ground. The treasury is looted, the city is left in ruins, and the Ark of the Covenant vanishes.
The Babylonian chronicles describe the plunder in detail: gold, silver, vessels, ornaments. But the Ark is not mentioned. If it was so famous and so valuable, why?
There are 3 main theories. Theory 1. the Babylonians took it. Perhaps it was taken but not recorded, either for religious reasons or because its full significance wasn't understood. But this theory runs into the problem that no Babylonian text ever mentions it, not even as a trophy. Theory 2. The Ark is hidden beneath the Temple Mount. Many scholars and traditions hold that the priest Josiah, or the priests themselves, foresaw the fall of Jerusalem and hid the Ark in secret underground tunnels beneath the temple before the Babylonians entered. A biblical hint at this version can be found in Chronicles, which explicitly states that Josiah placed the Ark in a secure place. But whether that place is beneath the Temple Mount, no one knows, and no one is permitted to dig there. Theory 3. The Ark is in Ethiopia. This is perhaps the most famous and intriguing theory of all. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims that the Ark is kept in a temple in Axum, known as Sion Mariam, which lies at the very heart of the local theological tradition.
According to their account, described in the medieval text known as the Kebra Nagast, the Ark was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, 1,000 years before the Babylonian invasion.
The extraordinary detail is that no one is allowed to see the Ark. A dedicated monk, the guardian of the Ark, lives within the temple until the end of his life, never permitted to leave. Only he has seen the Ark. Everyone else can only believe. In Axum, archaeologists have indeed uncovered evidence of a great civilization, colossal stone obelisks that speak to an ancient power. But whether the true Ark is kept there or merely a replica made centuries ago remains unknown. The Ark did not only attract religious seekers, it was also a target for far darker forces. The Nazis, and specifically the organization known as the Uneartherd, the secret research division of the SS, conducted real expeditions in search of artifacts with occult and political power. Wagner, Norse mythology, the Holy Grail, everything made the list. The Ark of the Covenant was no exception. Documents uncovered after World War II reveal the interest of Nazi officials in the Middle East and Ethiopia, specifically in the context of powerful artifacts from antiquity. But before the Nazis, there was one far more real and far stranger adventure. Montague Parker, a British aristocrat and adventurer, arrived in Jerusalem with an unusual mission. He had hired a medium who claimed to have received a divine revelation about the Ark's location, and convinced by a priest named Walter Juvelius, he financed a secret nighttime excavation beneath the Temple Mount. For several nights in a row, undetected by anyone, a small group of men tunneled beneath the Dome of the Rock, one of the holiest sites in Islam. When a local guard discovered them, the scandal was enormous. The Arab world erupted in outrage. There were protests across all of Palestine. Parker barely escaped with his life. But did he find anything? He never said. Until the end of his life, he refused to comment. A secret he took to the grave. The story of Montague Parker later partly inspired the character of Indiana Jones, and that is no coincidence. Now let's ask the final and perhaps most important question. Even if we knew exactly where the Ark was, could we even look for it? The answer is almost certainly no. The Temple Mount, known in Arabic as Haram al-Sharif, is arguably the most explosive piece of land on Earth. It is home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, the third and fourth holiest sites in Islam. Beneath it, according to tradition, lie the foundations of Solomon's Temple, the most sacred location in Judaism. Control over this site has been at the center of the Arab-Israeli conflict for decades. Any attempt to excavate there is a political nuclear bomb. Even a rumor of such an intention triggers unrest, protests, and sometimes bloodshed.
This is precisely why Israeli authorities, after capturing Jerusalem in 1967, officially handed administrative control of the Temple Mount to Jordan and the Islamic Waqf. A wise decision, a tragically necessary one.
And beneath the hill, there really are tunnels. Partially explored, partially collapsed. Historical chronicles from the time of the Crusades mention activity within them. The Knights Templar dug there. Parker dug there. But a complete, systematic archaeological survey has never been conducted, and perhaps it never will be. The Ark of the Covenant is far more than a lost artifact. It is a mirror reflecting everything we do not understand about the past, and perhaps about ourselves. It is a story about power, about faith, about fear, about the difference between religion and a weapon, about how thin the line is between the sacred and the destructive. Did it exist in a literal sense? Is it kept in Axum? Does it lie in a tunnel beneath the Temple Mount, waiting for the day when the world is ready or not to find it? We don't know. And perhaps it is precisely that not knowing that makes it so powerful, so eternal. Because the most dangerous things in history are not the ones we have found. They are the ones we are still searching for. If this story captivated you, subscribe to the channel. Every week we explore mysteries, enigmas, and forgotten truths from the ancient world. And let us know in the comments, do you believe the Ark is real? And if so, where do you think it is? Until next time.